Hi, Kex. We're back for the next chapter. I think this is 4, Escher?
Yeah.
Called Single Combat. The sight of Hector and Paris revived their troops like a blast of fresh air. The two princes jumped into their chariots. Drive straight at the Greek lines, they ordered their charioteers. As the chariots galloped forward, they both launched their weapons, throwing straight and hard. Suddenly, the exhausted Trojans were full of energy. Charging forward, they sent their spears hurtling through the air. Now it was the Greeks who were on the defensive. They were forced to give ground. That means they had to kind of back away. Athena was horrified to see them falling. She swept down from Mount Olympus, but before she could do anything to help, her way was barred or blocked by Apollo. She glared at him. I know you support the Trojans, and I know you want the Greeks to win, said Apollo. You can't wait to see them conquer Troy and burn it to the ground, but wouldn't you like this terrible killing to stop, just for a while? Athena looked doubtful. Is that possible? If we work together, said Apollo, we can inspire Hector to make a noble gesture. Let's get him to challenge a Greek champion to single combat. Athena agreed. She and Apollo laid aside their quarrel, for the time being, and went to find Prince Helios, one of Hector's brothers. Remember, King Priam, who is the father of Helenus and Hector and Paris, has 50 sons and 50 daughters. He had the gift of second sight and could hear messages from the gods. So Helenus, I don't remember how he got the gift, but I think I told you the story of Cassandra, and that she got the gift. She's a sister of Hector and Paris, too, a daughter of a princess of Troy, and she also has the gift of second sight, and she got it from Apollo, do you remember? And he couldn't take it away from her, but he gave her a kiss and sort of cursed her gift, and then no one would believe, from that moment on, no one would believe what she said was true. They whispered to him, and even in the middle of the fighting, he knew what they were saying. Immediately, he struggled through the battle to Hector's chariot. So this is Helenus. Brother, he said, I have a message from the gods. Tell the soldiers to stop fighting. Then offer to meet one of the Greeks in single combat. The gods have promised that you won't die. Hector was delighted by the idea. Stepping into the space between the two armies, he held his spear in front of the Trojans, signaling to them to sit down. Puzzled and cautious, Agamemnon stepped out to join him, waving his spear so that the Greeks sat down too. With a clatter, the two great armies sank to the ground, facing each other across no man's land. Suddenly, the whole plain was still and quiet. So they can get centered pretty fast, this army, huh, Escher?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe faster than KXers. Athena and Apollo looked down at the great sea of warriors. And here they are. Transforming themselves into vultures, they flew down into a tall oak tree and settled there, waiting to see what would happen. Hector turned toward the Greek army. I am Hector, Prince of Troy, he shouted. Is any Greek brave enough to face me single-handed? If so, I challenge him to step forward and fight me now, in front of our armies. If he kills me, he can take my armor, but he must send my body home to Troy for a proper funeral. If I kill him, his armor will go to Troy to hang in Apollo's temple, but I will return his body to your ships so that you can build him a funeral pyre and make a burial mound for his bones. Who will accept my challenge? So the idea here is that each side send their best warriors, and they fight in lieu of the whole army, and instead of all the armies fighting. And then whoever wins would decide the outcome of the war. The Greeks knew what a great warrior Hector was. They stared at him nervously, and no one spoke. At last Menelaus scrambled to his feet. This is shameful, he yelled at his comrades. Sit there and rot if you like. I'm going to fight Hector. A dozen other Greeks leaped forward to stop him. Everyone knew that Menelaus was no match for Hector. Don't throw your life away for nothing, brother, said Agamemnon. Sit down. We'll find someone to make Hector regret this challenge. I'll go if I were young enough, shouted Nestor. But I am an old man now, and all the rest of you are cowards. His angry accusation had men leaping to their feet. Agamemnon himself was first, followed by the great Diomedes of Argos, then Ajax of Salamis, and Odysseus of Ithaca, all clamoring to be chosen. We'll draw lots, Nestor said wisely. He took off his helmet and held it out, and each of them marked a stone and dropped it in. It's sort of how we choose star friends. The soldiers knew who the greatest warriors were. As Nestor shook the helmet, the whole Greek army was praying. Let it be Ajax or Diomedes, or great Agamemnon himself. Zeus, let it be a worthy champion. Their prayers were answered. The stone that came out of the helmet carried the mark of Ajax of Salamis. He was delighted. Pray for me while I put on my armor, he called to the soldiers. So the troops went on praying, looking up into the sky. Father Zeus, let Ajax win. Or, if you love Hector too much to let him be defeated, then may the fight be drawn, or a tie. But don't let Ajax be beaten. Inspired by their prayers, Ajax took up his shield and marched out to meet Hector. Now you'll see what it's like to face a true Greek warrior, he said. Achilles may be out of the battle for now, but there are still plenty of us who can match you, Trojans. Trojan, defend yourself. Hector raised his head, and his helmet flashed in the sun. You won't scare me with words. I grew up with a spear in my hand. Take guard, invader. With all the power in his body, he threw his long javelin. Ajax caught the weapon on his shield, but the point sliced through its bronze surface, cutting deep into the leather behind it. The impact threw him backward. Recovering his balance, he flung his own spear even harder. Hector swerved sideways, thrusting out his shield, and Ajax's spear went through it, ripping the side of Hector's tunic. If Hector hadn't dodged quickly, he would have been dead. The two men fell on each other like boars. Ajax's spear grazed Hector's neck, drawing blood. In reply, Hector snatched up a jagged rock and threw it so hard that it made Ajax's shield clang like a bell. Ajax threw an even bigger rock. He dented Hector's shield and knocked him off his feet, but he jumped up immediately. Drawing his sword, he ran at Ajax. They fought until the sun went down and the light began to fall. Then heralds came running out from the two armies. You're both great warriors, they shouted. Zeus loves you both too much to see you hacking at each other in the dark. Ajax lowered his sword. Hector challenged me to fight. Is he ready to stop? You're a mighty warrior, Hector answered, but we can hardly see each other. Let us stop for today and exchange gifts to show our respect for each other. He held out his silver-studded sword to Ajax. Ajax accepted the sword and gave Hector his magnificent purple belt. Then as night fell, the Greeks went back to their ships, and the Trojans retreated inside the city walls. So even though they're fighting, even though it's war, there are still rules. And that's something we believe still today, even though we have these terrible wars, there are supposed to be rules that each side respects. Next chapter, Paris makes an offer, and the Greeks make a wall. Hope you enjoyed the story.